Now to a dire warning about climate change.
Cars and homes were washed away.
If we don't take action, the collapse of our civilized and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon.
Warnings of impending climate disasters. Growing in urgency.
Heavenly Father, please help us.
When we discuss regarding the climate change, do we really understand on what is it, all hows, and why? Why it's climate change and is it real? Yes, it is real and it is happening now. To begin with, climate change is defined as a long-term change in the Earth over temperature with massive and permanent ramification. It has a factor affecting the climate change that is happening right now in the world due to one and only carbon emission that emits carbon dioxide and methane gases. The presence of carbon gases that are trapped in our atmospheric layer has a dominating presence at about 90% according to EPA. These gases accumulated in the atmospheric layer while the radiating sun keeps penetrating and reflecting on the Earth's surface. Giving out the greenhouse effect towards the Earth simultaneously warms the Earth by the increase in almost 1 to 2.3 Fahrenheit in 10 years' time. Not only by that, the global warming due to carbon emission does not occur by itself as it involves transportation, industrialization, agriculture, and residential, which then combine all together becoming a global warming. Thus, when more carbon emission towards the environment, the temperature of the Earth will definitely increase, and it leads to natural disaster that will surely harm all living and non-living organisms. Next, meat consumption is one of the factors that affecting the carbon emission towards the environment. This is due to living cows release CH4 gases as they are very gassy, which results in establishing a gas which is 25 times more competent than the CO2 itself, which contains carbon and contributes to carbon emission.
About 25% of all the global climate change problems we're seeing can be attributed back to the food and the choices that we're actually making about what we eat on a daily basis. This is greater than all the cars on the planet. In fact, it's about twice as much global warming pollution.
However, it is unfair to only blame the consumption of livestock when the almost obvious contributor goes to the transportation. These transportations emit carbon dioxide, and we can't run from it since it is the engagement between the living and the non-living, no matter what, during day or night.
Have you ever wondered where all of these carbon gases from the vehicles will probably end up? Well, if you answered no, so let me explain. To begin with, the presence of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere actually acts as the blanket for the Earth. Its presence warms the Earth by the phenomenon of the greenhouse effect. But if the carbon dioxide level keeps on rising, this will lead to global warming and even worse, climate change. Therefore, one of the factors that cause excess of carbon emissions in the atmosphere is by transportation. Here's a clip.
Can illustrate this. Contrary to popular belief, ferry boats are by far the worst polluters, with carbon emissions off the scale. More than 2,000 kilos of CO2 are emitted per passenger if the ferry travels at night, covering a distance of just 400 kilometres. Planes fare better, releasing 750 kilos of CO2 per passenger over a distance of 6,500 kilometres. The exact quality varies according to the type of aircraft used, how it's loaded, its cargo and weather conditions. Next in line is the car. Based on 4 people travelling together, each one has an average carbon output of 270 kilos for an 880 kilometre journey. Trains are a more environmentally friendly form of transport. A mainline train would emit 72 kilos of CO2 per passenger while travelling 1,280 kilometres. Last but not least, cycling and walking are the cleanest forms of transport, producing no carbon emissions. During an 8-hour
The process of urbanization will always associated with construction, and during construction, heavy-duty vehicles such as tractors will be used, and tractors eventually use up fossil fuels. So, what is fossil fuels, and how can it impact our environment?
Fossil fuels, like oil, coal and natural gas, are the remains of living things from millions of years ago. They are mainly composed of carbon with varying amounts of hydrogen. If you collect all the exhaust gases from your car during a journey and squash them into a bottle so that they can be weighed, compared with the weight of petrol burnt, the exhaust gases will weigh much heavier because oxygen from the air has been added. Here is a bit of a petrol molecule, H2CCH2. It joins with 6 oxygen atoms, or 3 molecules, to build up hydrogen oxide, or water vapour, and carbon dioxide, another 2 molecules. Before the world became industrialised by burning fossil fuels, carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere was about 0.28%, tiny compared with oxygen at 21% and nitrogen at 78%, but enough to keep us warm. Without this natural blanket of insulating gas, the Earth would be too cold to support life as we know it. But this carbon dioxide, released when fossil fuels burn, adds to the existing carbon dioxide levels, which are now nearly 50% higher than in pre-industrial.
Next, let's move to the third source of carbon emission, which is industrial agriculture. As we know, the global climate is changing not only by the carbon. The greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, water vapor, methane and nitrous oxide also contribute. There are 5 branches of carbon emission as well as other greenhouse gases from agriculture. They are enteric fermentation, deforestation, manure decomposition, rice cultivation and field burning of agriculture residue. Enteric fermentation is digestive process in ruminant animals. In rumen, microbial action occurs to break down cellulose eaten by these animals into simple molecules. This microorganism reaction will produce methane gases. This is why vegetarians claim that eating meat is harmful to environment due to methane production. So, eating less meat can help to reduce carbon footprint. Next is deforestation. This activity may increase the carbon content in our atmosphere. Forests for all over the world is acting as carbon sink, which take carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and convert it into oxygen for our breathing. The reason of deforestation are for wood and timber, farmland, urbanization, palm oil, paper and mining. Manure decomposition and livestock urine are significant sources of methane and nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is produced during the nitrification-denitrification of the nitrogen contained in livestock waste under anaerobic condition. Finally, rice cultivation and field burning of residue is also branches of agriculture that emits carbon affecting global warming. Rice paddies are a large source of methane, and burning of agriculture residue gives out methane, carbon monoxide, nitrous oxide and nitrogen oxide. So, agriculture industry is one of the biggest contributor for carbon emission that can change global climate.
has evolved since early 90s and it continues to expand and reproducing the gas emission to the surrounding. It doesn't have any intention to stop right there until the right action is taken. Hence, climate action is everyone's responsibility, no matter which side you're in, either you're in government, businesses, or society in community, or act individually. We have to take action in order to reduce our carbon footprint alongside reducing the carbon emission, like investing in green technologies, which can also reduce and create jobs due to the risk and cost of inaction are too high to be ignored. Hence, let us preserve the nature, fight the climate change, be the person you want to change the world. Because we started off what we have begun with, we should bear the responsibilities toward everything, because we are the cause and we are the solution. And remember, weather doesn't change the climate, but climate will change the weather.